Okay, all right. It's doing it now. Thank the Lord. Okay. Okay. All right. That's it. Right. Back to Zoom. Got it. Right. Okay. Wonderful. So let's begin. Oh, where are you? Have I lost you, Nicole? Hello? I don't know where I am. What's going on here? Give up. Oh, I think it's okay. All right, so let's begin. That's Nicole. Anyhow, let's begin. All right, so we'll start off with our tefillah. All right. Oh, I need to share my screen. Sorry. Do that. Share screen. Oh, here comes Nicole again. All right, there we go. All right. Share screen. There we go. All right, start again. All right. ריבון עולמים ואדוני אדונים, אב הרחמן והסליחות, מודים אנחנו לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, וקידה בשתחוויה שקרבתנו לתורתך ולעבודתך עבודת הקודש, ונתת לנו חלק בסודות תורתך הקדושה, מה אנו ומחיינו, אשר עשית עמנו חסד גדול כזה. על כן אנחנו מפילים תחנוננו לפניך, שתמחול ותסלח לכל חטאותינו ועוונותינו, ועל יהיו עוונותינו מבדילים בינינו לביניך, וכן יהיו רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, שתכונן את לבבינו ליראתך ולבבך, ותקשיב אוזניך לדברינו אלה, ותפתח לבבינו הערל בסודות תורתך, ולימודנו זה נחת רוח, לפני כיסא כבודך כרך ניחוח, ותציל עלינו, אור מקור נשמתנו בכל בחינתנו, שיתנוצצו ניצוצות עבודיך הקדושים, אשר על ידם גלית דבריך אלה בעולם, וזכותם, וזכות אבותם, וזכות תורתם ותמימותם וקדושתם, יעמוד לנו לבן לקשר בדברים אלו, ובזכותם תראיננו במה שאנו לומדים, מאמר נעים זמירות ישראל, גל עיניי והביט הנפלאות מתורתך, כי אדוני תן חוכמה מפיו דעת ותבונה, יהיו לרצוני מפי, וגאון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגואלי. Amen. Can you rtzon?
Amen.
So today, we're going to start by looking at a very lovely piece from, stop the share and do a new share, that one. Okay, I'm going to look at a very lovely piece from the Zohar. It's not a very big piece, it's a short piece, in fact, but I thought really, really beautiful. Here comes Vita. Okay, so here you can actually see the Zohar itself. All right, it's the very beginning of Chukat. So let's begin. וידבר השם אל משה ואל אהרון לאמור. זאת חוקת התורה אשר ציווה השם לאמור וגומר. רבי יוסי פתח, וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל. האחזי, מילים דאורייתא קדישין אינון, אלא אינון, מתיקין אינון, כמה דכתיב, הנחמדים מזהב ומפז רב, מתוקים בדבש וגומר. מן תשתדל באורייתא, כאילו קיים כל יום על תורה דסינא וקרבי לאורייתא, כמו שכתוב היום הזה נהיית לעם והוקמוה חוויה. And God spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, this is the statute of the Torah, okay? Which God commanded, saying, that's the very beginning of this Sidra. Rabbi Yossi opened his discourse, and instead of looking at that verse, he compares it with a different verse. Okay, in this verse we're all familiar with. V'zot haTorah shesam Moshe lifnei b'nei Israel. Okay, we always say that when they raise up the Sefer Torah in Shul. Okay, and this is the Torah which Moses placed before the children of Israel. Okay, so he says, it's very interesting how he parallels these two verses. One says, this is the statute of the Torah, and the other one is, and this is the Torah which Moses placed before the children of Israel. And he says like this, come and see, the words of Torah, they are holy, they are high, they are sweet, as it is written, Hanechmadim mizahav u'mipazvav. They are more beautiful than gold, and from spun gold. They are sweeter than honey. Whoever occupies himself in Torah, it's as if he's standing every day on Mount Sinai and receiving the Torah. And this is what it says, on this day you became a people. And this is what the companions have established. Now, what the Aramaic actually says is whoever strives in Torah, whoever tries, okay? And I think this is really beautiful because he's not saying you have to be brilliant, you have to be, a great sage, you have to be, a great scholar. It's not what he's saying at all. It's saying whoever strives, whoever tries in Torah, okay? It's as if every day he's standing on Mount Sinai and receiving the Torah. Okay, so that what God's interested in is our heart, what we're trying for, not what our success is due to God. All we can do is try, all right? So that's what he's saying here. And he says that the words of Torah are holy. In other words, they bring us to affinity of form with God. They are high. They connect us with God. They are sweet. They give us pleasure. They are more pleasant than gold and than spun gold. They are sweeter than honey. The sages actually tell us that the revelation of the actual presence of God within a person, that can actually feel the presence of God within us, is more sweet, is more beautiful, is more amazing than all the pleasures of all this earthly world put there together. Amazing, huh? Okay, and they knew because they actually had experience. The tzaddikim really experienced the presence of God within them. All right, because they were in affinity of form. And again, you don't have to be a great scholar to be in affinity of form. All you have to try, that's all. So whoever occupies himself in Torah is as if he's standing every day, every moment, he's got a revelation of the light of God on Har Sinai, okay, on Mount Sinai, and receiving the Torah. Beautiful. So we're going to look at one more paragraph here, and then we're going to look at Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag. Ketiv hacha zot chukat haTorah, v'ketiv v'zot haTorah, ma bein hai lahai, ela raze ila'u, v'hachi olifna v'zot haTorah, la'ach za'ar kula b'yichud ahad, ולאח ללה כנסת ישראל בקודש בריחו, להשתכחה כולו חד, בגיני כך וזאת התורה, עמי תוספת וו, אל היתמה, להחזאה דכולו חד, בלא פירודה, וזאת כלל ופרט כחדה, דחר ונוקבה, ובגין כך וזאת התורה ודאי, אבל זאת בלא תוספת וו חוקת התורה ודאי, ולא התורה, Dina d'oraita, gzeira d'oraita. It's written here, in this particular sidra, Zot Chukat HaTorah. This is the statute of the Torah. Okay, that's how the whole sidra begins. V'katuv v'zot HaTorah, and in the other verse that we looked at, we said, and this is the Torah which Moses put before the children of Israel. Okay, so what's the difference? One says Zot, and one says V'zot, okay? All right. What's the difference between them? But it's an inner high secret, in other words, an inner meaning. וכך למדנו. וזאת התורה, and this is the Torah, הוא להראות שהכל הוא בייחוד אחד. This shows us that it is all in one unity. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Knesset Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy Blessed One, and the Shekhinah are united. Okay? How do we know that? נמצא כל אחד, משום זה וזאת. Okay? The Vav is for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Zot is for the Shekhinah, which is all the souls of Israel put together, all the souls of humanity put together. Oops. All the souls of humanity put together, okay, is one. So we have HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy Blessed One, which is the Vav, and the Shekhinah, which is the Zot, and they are one. And that's why it says V'zot Torah. Okay? Without any separation between them. And he goes on to say, V'zot means the generality and the detail are together. Like it's true and unity in the macrocosm, it's true and with unity in the microcosm. It's also Dahar v'Nukva, the male aspect, which is the giving aspect, which is the Holy Blessed One who gives to us, and the Nukva, the feminine aspect, which is the receiving aspect, which is the Shekhinah, is united together. The Vav represents the male aspect, which is the Zerampin, which is the general aspect, the Holy Blessed One. Okay, the Holy Blessed One, which is sort of like what's it called? The outside aspect, you tell, more outside of us, okay? And the Zot, which is the inner aspect, which is the soul, okay, is the feminine aspect, the receiving aspect, the vessel, okay, the Malchut. And because of this, it's written, V'zot Torah. It tells us they're in one unity. But in this particular verse, which starts off our Sidra this week, Zot Chukat Torah, okay, I think in the Chutz La'aretz, I think you're still in Korach, and in Israel, we are in Chukat already. So there's a sort of a skip there, all right? So in this particular Sidra, which begins Zot Chukat Torah, okay, it's Zot without the additional Vav. All right, it's not the same. Okay, we had V'zot Torah Shesam Moshe, and this is the Torah which Moses gave. Here we have Zot Chukat Torah without that extra Vav. Okay, so what is it talking about? It's talking about the Malchut, which is a Chukah, which is a rule, which is a Chukah is a statute, which means this is the way we do it. Bami Zerampin Shnikra Torah. It comes from some of Zerampin. The Zerampin is called the Torah. It's not the Torah itself. So the Malchut is Din HaTorah, the rule of the Torah. Gzeirat Torah, the rule of the Torah, Shi Malchut. Okay? So we're going to be talking about this time, this teaching. We're going to be learning about what is this aspect of the Malchut? What is the rule of the Malchut? Okay, which we learn specifically in this particular Sidra. Okay, Zot Chukat HaTorah. Okay, this relates specifically to a rule of Torah which relates to the Malchut. Okay, great. So I'm going to stop share a moment here, and we're going to go now to look at the actual scripture, which I've got written up here. I'll have to, wait a minute, do my sharing again. Share screen, there it is. All right, got it, okay. V'daber Hashem el Moshe ve'el Aaron lemor. And God spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, Zot Chukat Torah. This is the statute of the Torah, which God commanded, saying, Daber el bnei Yisrael, speak to the children of Israel, V'ikhu elecha para aduma tmima, asher ein ba mum, and they shall take for you a perfect red heifer, which has no blemish, asher lo ala aleha ol, which no yoke came upon it. Unatatem ota el Elazar Kohen, and shall give her to the Elazar the priest. V'otzi ota el mechutz hamachane, and take it outside the camp. V'shachat ota lefanav, and slaughter it before him. V'lakach Elazar Kohen midama be'etzba'o, v'izal nochach pnei ochel moed midama sheva pamim. And Elazar Kohen is going to take from the blood from his finger, and he's going to sprinkle it towards the attempt of meeting from its blood 7 times. And the heifer will be burnt in his sight. All the aspects of the heifer, its skin and its flesh and its blood and everything that comes from it is going to be burnt. And the priest is going to take cedar wood and hyssop, ushni tolat and scarlet, and he's going to put it into the ashes of the cow. And he's going to wash his clothes afterwards, and he's going to wash himself, and then he can come to the camp, okay, and is unclean till the evening. Now, what's special about this red heifer, okay, is that they can use from now on the ashes of the red heifer, which had been burnt, okay, to actually use to purify anybody who's come into contact with a dead person. All right, that's the rule. Okay, yeah, that's more or less it. Okay. Anybody who comes in contact with a dead person, who touches a dead person, he's unclean for 7 days. He can purify himself on the 3rd day, and on the, he can get clean completely on the 7th day, and then he needs to be sprinkled with this water which has had the ashes of the red heifer in it. Now, if we look at this from a logical perspective, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, how can we understand something like this? It doesn't make sense at all. All right. So now we're going to look what Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag has to say on the inner meanings of what this means in our inner work. Not what it means like in the practical sense, but because, in the practical sense, we also don't understand what it means because we are not in the time of the temple and we're all considered as in Tumat Met at the moment, okay? And so we're going to look now by Baruch Shalom's Ashlag saying, here we are trying to keep the Torah. What does this mean for us in our inner work? Now, I've lost my share screen thing. Share screen. That's it. That's the one we want. Share screen. Yes, that's it. Share. Okay, so here we're going to go. All right. Now, anybody got any questions, just call out. I'm going to make this a bit bigger so you'll be able to read it yourselves as well. There you are. Zod Chukat Torah. This is the statue of the Torah. Piresh Rashi. Lefisha Satan v'umot ha'olam monim et Yisrael lomar. Ma mitzvah zot? Ma ta'am yesh ba? According to the Satan and the nations of the world. Now, who's the Satan and the nations of the world? There's nothing outside of us. It's inside of us. It's our wills to receive for ourselves alone. Okay? They sort of question Israel and say, Ma mitzvah zot? What's this mitzvah all about? Ma ta'am yesh ba? What reason is there for it? Okay? And because, as we said, we can't find a reason, we don't know a reason, so the will to receive doesn't want to do anything without a reason. Okay, that's why it asks. All right. Therefore, it's written, it is a statute. It's a rule before me. You have no permission to question it. Now, Rabbi Borchashlag is going to ask us a question. Aleph. דמכאן משמע שלכם כתיב בה חוקה, משום שאומות עולם שואלים את הטעם, מה שאין כן שם, מצוות התורה שאין אומות עולם שואלים, כן כתב טעם המצוות? הלא לא מפורש טעם המצוות. So he's asking a question. He says, listen, he says, here, it's written specifically, it's a statute, okay? Because the other nations of the world, that's the wills to receive for ourselves within us, our egoism, our selfish love, asks the reason. We don't like to do things without a reason. Well, what about the other mitzvot of the Torah? Our wills to receive for ourselves alone don't ask those questions. Also, is the reason for the mitzvot written down? Very often it's not written down, it's not clear. It's not explicit what the reasons for the mitzvot actually are. But, לכאורה היה צריך להיות ההפך, שדווקא במקום שמבקשים טעם לדבר, שם צריכים לתת טעם, ולא במקום שאין שואלים. We also would like to say that we think it should be the other way around, that in the place, in a consciousness, we're actually asking for the reason. That's when we should be given a reason, and not in a place where we don't ask. Here, here Rashi says, Zot chukat Torah. Okay, he tells us that specifically the wills to receive for ourselves alone ask the reason why we do why this whole mitzvah of the red heifer even exists. Okay. Don't ask. So he says, well, surely when we ask a question, shouldn't we get the answer? All right. We don't always ask the questions, but if we do, surely that's a place where we should get the answer. Rashi also brings a parable to explain what is the connection with the red heifer, okay, that he brings. Mashal leben shifcha shetinef palatin shel melech. אמרו, תבוא עמו ותקנח הצואה, כך תבוא פרה ותכפר על העגל. מכאן משמע שזהו טעם על עניין הפרה, ואם כן, מדוע נקראת חוקה? Rashi, furthermore, does bring a parable, and he says it's a parable like a maidservant, okay, and her son, well, I guess was a kid, and he made a mess. All right, in the palace of the king. And they said, bring his mother and she'll clear the mess up. A young kid who doesn't know how to go to the bathroom properly yet. Okay. So likewise, we offer up this cow, and that will atone for the calf. Which calf? The golden calf. All right. So from what his words are, it seems to imply there is a reason for this whole red heifer thing, mitzvah of the red heifer. And if that's the case, why is it called a chukah? Which we said earlier, we learned from the Zohar as well, that it's a decree. Vala pasuk vikhu elecha, okay, and they shall take to you, okay. Piresh Rashi, Lo'olam inikret al shemecha, parash asa Moshe b'midbar. That in other words, the children of Israel were told to bring to Moses the red heifer. And it says, and Rashi says, this red heifer is always going to be called on your name. Parash asa Moshe b'midbar, the red heifer that Moses worked with in the wilderness. We need to understand, why is this red heifer called by the name of Moses and not the other mitzvot? ולא היו עוד מצוות שעשו במדבר. There weren't any other mitzvot that they did in the wilderness, and we know for sure that they did. והנה להבין את כל הנ"ל, צריכים להקדים את התכלית של תורה ומצוות, מהו עניינם. In order to understand all these issues and difficulties and questions that we've raised here, we need to really, first of all, look and see what is the purpose of the Torah and mitzvot. What's the issues involved here? והנה במדרש רבה, על פסוק וזבחת מבקריך ומצונך, in Midrash Rabbah, when it's talking about the verse, and you shall sacrifice from your cattle and from your flock, Shoel Rabbi asks a question. Does God really care if we slaughter the cow from its neck or from the back of its neck? It's not for the sake of God that we're doing all this. It's for our sake. The mitzvot were only given to cleanse the created beings, to cleanse ourselves, to purify ourselves. God doesn't need the mitzvot. He doesn't mind. It's what we, but if we do the mitzvot, we can come closer to him. Shinyanohu. The problem is the created beings were created with the nature of being receivers. And this means density. It means opacity. It means we are not in affinity of form with the Creator. It means that the light can't get through to us. Zikuch, purifying ourselves, means we have to be givers, not receivers. Okay? And because it's impossible for us to simply just go against our created nature, therefore we were given good counsel. Through the Torah mitzvot, we can learn to transform our nature and to walk in the ways of giving. Only then, when we're in affinity of form with the Creator, okay, because as God is giving, then we are in the same form, we're also giving, okay, then we'll be able to receive the gift of the King. Without a problem, without lack, without feeling embarrassed, without shame, without any deficit. Okay? So what's the problem here is? The problem is that as created beings, we're created with the will to receive. That's our nature. All right? And just to tell somebody to do the opposite of your nature doesn't work, okay? Because our nature is created within us. But the Torah and the mitzvot is like this bridge, okay? Through the light of the Torah, for fulfilling the mitzvot of the Torah, we can learn to transform our nature and actually come to use it for the sake of giving. And when we're using it for the sake of giving, we're in affinity of form. And in affinity of form means dveikut, means unity. When there's unity, the light of God can flow freely to the created beings. Okay? וההבחנה שאדם ידע שהוא מקבל רק מטעם מצווה הוא, אם מרגיש בעצמו שהוא יכול לבטל את התענוגים. אף על פי שיש לו רצון וחשק, ומכל מקום הוא מוותר, והוא מקבל רק על תנאי שרצון השם יתברך הוא כך. זה נקרא שהוא מקבל רק מטעם מצווה. So how do we know if we are receiving only for the sake of the mitzvah, or whether we're still receiving for ourselves alone? And he says like this, if a person feels within himself that he can give up the pleasure, okay, even though he's got such a desire and passion, all right, and he really wants to receive pleasure, but he's willing to give it up, he's willing to let go, all right? He only wants to receive on the condition that God himself wants that, then he's receiving only for the sake of the mitzvah. And this can only be when a moment when he's can only be when he's able to let go of the pleasure. Then he's able to actually come to giving, that he's able to receive for the sake of giving. And this is a general rule. שרוצה להרגיל את עצמו בוויתורים, מוכרח להרגיל עצמו קודם בתענוגים יותר קטנים, ואחר כך בתענוגים יותר גדולים. So how do we habituate ourselves to let go of the pleasures and only receive when God wants us to? Okay, and he says you have to start small. Okay, don't start with the biggest of all, start small. Start first of all by letting go of little pleasures, all right? And then subsequently you can work with bigger ones. You have to work up, all right? Always go from the easy to the heavy, all right? Don't start too big, you have to start small, all right? What's considered big? It's traditional by us. The sages tell us that the greatest joy in the world is to be in unity with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bivchinat hasagat elokut, actually to attain his godliness. Wow. That's the greatest joy in the whole world. The rabbis actually say that if you were to take all the pleasures of this world and add them all up together, okay, there'd be nothing compared to one moment of unity with God. Attaining the light of God. Therefore, it's brought in the holy books that there was that the tzimtzum was created. What's the created? Until we are fit to receive it in a proper way, without grabbing, okay, without receiving for ourselves alone, God's light is hidden from us. That's the inyan of the tzimtzum. It's a tikkun for the issue of the bread of shame, so that we don't receive for ourselves alone. Okay, tzimtzum inyan hastara means that God's light is hidden. That as long as a person is still in the domain of his will to receive, is not in his power to feel at all the attainment of divinity. Because the joy of attainment of divinity is so great, we wouldn't be able to let it go at all. All right? So if, God forbid, somebody was able to receive the light of God and use it for himself alone, he wouldn't be able to give it up. Okay? He'd be in total separation. And God doesn't want us. God doesn't want us to get separated from him. Okay? He doesn't. He loves us. All right? That means he doesn't want us to end up in such a problem. So therefore, he hides his light until we're ready for it. Okay? Because what would happen otherwise? If a person's receiving this great light of God, okay, even if it wasn't a mitzvah, he would receive it. And that would be separation. This would be like if a person is using the Torah not for its own sake, and actually it's not just not for its own sake, it actually leads to sama mavet. It means the drug of death. Okay? Because there is an aspect of Shalom Lishma which brings a person to Lishma. But that's not the type he's talking about here. What he's talking about here is if he's actually using it specifically to bring the joy, okay, and he wants to use it for his own sake, that's sama mavet. That would be a separation. בכדי שיהיה אפשרות לאדם שיוכל לעשות מטעם מצווה, שהוא כדי להשפיע נחת רוח להיות צריך להיות עניין הצמצום, שעניין הסתרה. So, in order that we're able to do the work of the mitzvah that we're able to do it from the aspect of giving pleasure to the Creator, okay, we have to do it from the place of God's light is hidden from us. All right? שבזמן ההסתרה אזי שייך, זה עת ענייני עבודה בתורה מצוות לקיים בבחינת אמונה. Because when God's light is hidden, we're given the number one opportunity to do the work from the aspect of giving. All right? From faith. Faith is absolute giving. All right? There's no receiving involved because God's light is hidden. All right? So, we think that when God's light is hidden, it's a bad time. It's no good. It's not true. It's the opposite. The Torah teaches us, the Zohar teaches us, it's actually when God's light is hidden is the main time when we forge the connection with God. Because when God's light is hidden from us, that's the time when we're actually able to do Torah and mitzvot from emunah, from giving. Okay? והיינו שמקבל עליו all Torah mitzvot מטעם שגזרותיו יתברך הם כך. He simply takes upon himself the yoke of Torah and mitzvot because those are the decrees of God and that's the way it is. וזה נקרא בחינת חוקה. And that is what we call by the word חוקה, a decree, a statute, okay? The way it is. All right, so far so good. If there's any questions, don't hesitate to call out. וזה כלל. מתי מרגישים שזהו חוק ולא טעם? זה רק בזמן שנתעורר באדם רצון וחשק להרגיש טעם, ואינו מרגיש. And this is a general rule. When do we feel that this is a statute and there's no reason for it? It's actually only when there wakes up in the person a desire and passion to feel the reason, to feel the taste of it, to feel the ta'am is not just a reason. Ta'am is also taste, okay? To feel the pleasure involved. And he can't feel it. אז כשמקבל עליו עול תורה מצוות, הוא מקבל את כל זה רק מבחינת חוק. So he receives upon himself the yoke of the Torah and mitzvot, and he receives it only from the aspect of the statute. מה שאין כן, כשאין דרישה לבחינת טעם, but when there's no request to feel the taste of Torah and mitzvot, the goodness in it, מניין הוא יודע שאין בו טעם אלא חוק? How does he know that this is just a gzeirah, that there's no reason, but it's simply a statute? וזה הרמז. And this is the hint, Zot Chukat Torah. This is the statute of the Torah. לפי שהשטן וכולי אמרו, לפיכך כתב בחוקה. And again, he brings here a hint of the Rashi, which is that the Satan, wants to know why we're doing this, and you just have to answer and say, it's a hukah. Satan is not anybody outside, it's us, it's our wills to receive for ourselves alone. Okay, there's lots of different terms in the scripture and in the writings of the sages for the wills to receive for self alone. It's the Satan, it's the angel of death, it's the will to receive for self alone, it's the Yetzer Hara. It's got a million different names, okay? Don't worry. But also because it appears within us in different forms, okay? But they're all the will to receive for oneself alone. So the statutes of the Torah appear as statutes without reason only when the will to receive asks, okay? And this is and he says the Satan, Hainu Yetzer Hara, the Yetzer Hara, as the sages said, Hu Satan, Hu Yetzer Hara, Hu Malach HaMavet. It's loads and loads of names for the will to receive for oneself alone, okay? And the order is like this. When the body, when our will to receive asks, why should I do this? Why should I do this mitzvah? And it could be for any of the mitzvot, okay? It doesn't have to be just the red heifer. It could be any of the mitzvot. We get these questions, driving us mad. Why should I do it? This is the Yetzer Hara. This is the will to receive for ourselves alone. And because of those questions, it bothers the person to actually fulfill the mitzvah. Satan. Okay, it's like the Satan. What's the Satan? He's like somebody who's trying to divert you off the path. And then he kills him. What's killing? Killing in Kabbalah does not mean killing you dead. It means that he takes away the life force of holiness that he had within him. Okay, and instead gives just life force, life which belongs to this world. Okay, which is just temporary, and it's just physical things, material things, and it's not real life. Okay, it's the life of the Rishaim, of the life of the wicked, whose life is actually designated as being death. So what is death? The angel of death, the aspect of separation from God, that is what's death. Okay, so what's happening here? We're going to do a mitzvah, okay, and we want to do it from faith, and straight away, our will to receive for ourselves alone tries to push us off the path, entice us off the path, okay? And so I say, why? Why should you do it? All right? What's the reason? And when you start listening to that, then you actually don't want to do it at all. And that's called the Malach HaMavet, that he wants to actually separate us from the life force in holiness and just give us, some bit of joy, a pleasure of this world, which doesn't really doesn't last, it's temporary, and it actually is the aspect of death. It follows from this, only when the will to receive for ourselves alone comes and asks with complaints, that's where all the work begins. We need to overcome this thought in our minds, this question in our hearts. And just say, Zot chukat Torah. This is the statute. End of story. That I'm fulfilling the Torah just because it's a rule. It's a decree before me. There's no point asking about it. Okay? It simply is. This is what we received from Moshe Rabbeinu, and this is what we believe. That's it. Okay? So that's the answer which we give to our will to receive for ourselves alone when it wants to know why to do anything. Okay? And this is exactly the same, by the way, as the answer we give to the wicked son on the Haggadah, when he says, Ma avodah zot lachem. What is this service for you? Okay? All right? And what's the answer? Haket shinav, harden his teeth. I'm just not going to, just say, this is the way it is. That's it. Okay? That's what it means. Now he says here, the issue of the parah, the issue of the red heifer, is this new meaning of faith, which is exactly what we have to exercise when we have to do our Torah mitzvot as a statute. And that's why this heifer is called by the name of Moses. Moshe Raya, because Moses was the shepherd of faith. He's the one who brought faith to the congregation of Israel. Okay, in the Zohar, there's pieces in the Zohar which are called Re'ah Mehemana, the shape of the from the faithful shepherd. That's what he's called. Moshe Rabbeinu is called the shepherd of faith. Okay. And this is what the sages of blessed memory said, that the heifer is called by the name of Moshe, the heifer which Moses did in the wilderness. What's the wilderness? It's the before we've come into the consciousness, to the dwelling place of Eretz Yisrael. Okay, what's Eretz Yisrael? This is brought in the book Shunyan Hashrat Hashchina B'Kviyut Basaga Mele'ah. Wow, the consciousness of Eretz Yisrael is the inspiration of the Shekhinah on a permanent basis in complete attainment. Hanika Almaydit Galia, when the light of God is manifest. Why is it manifest? Because we're in Yashar El, straight to God. Okay, we're in total affinity of form with God. Masha En Kein Midbar, that's not the case in the wilderness. Alma Dit Kasya, when God's light is hidden from us. And then we have to function Bechina Chok, from the aspect that it is a decree, and we have to go in faith. I can see there's something in the chat. Sorry, I didn't. Does death have the same meaning as the will to receive oneself alone? Yes, Vita, absolutely. Absolutely. The will to receive oneself alone causes death. And death means separation from the life of all lives, which is because when we're in affinity of form with God, then we are absolutely receiving the light of God. We're in a connection, we're in unity, that's life, okay? And death means separation. Absolutely. Very good question. Okay. Wait, sorry, I didn't see that earlier. Vinyan Egel. Okay. So what's the issue of the calf? Muvan b'soar kadush pagdamar pasuk zu'u marome nechem u'u mi bara eile. It's brought in the Holy Zohar, in the first volume of the Zohar, in the introduction to the Zohar. That's there are a few things called the introduction to the Zohar, but here he means the first volume of the Zohar. On the verse, Su'u marome nechem u'u mi bara eile. Look, raise up your eyes on high and see who created these. Now, this is a kind of a code, okay, a code phrase, all right? And so we just have to take it on trust here, all right, because we're not going to go into the Zohar here. It's in Yan Mi, that the word Mi refers to the light of Hasadim, the light of giving. Eile refers to the light of Chokhmah without the light of giving, okay? All right, so you just have to take that bit on trust, all right? So who is me? What is me? Satan Bava Shoel. What is the aspect of me? Who, okay? Who created these? It's the Satan. It's the angel, it's the Satan, the will to receive ourselves alone, who comes and says, Mi Hashem Asher Shema B'Kolo. Who is God that I should listen to his voice? Do you remember who said that? Pharaoh. So who's Pharaoh? The archetype of the will to receive ourselves alone, inside ourselves, okay? And then we have to receive everything in the aspect of a statute, which is hasadim, which is giving, which is loving kindness, which is giving, all right? Or the hasadim is the light of giving, all right? Because when we have to do it by hukah, by statute, we have to go in faith, it's giving. We can't use the aspect of knowledge. We have to go in a paradigm of consciousness, which is actually more giving than that of knowledge. Knowledge is what we receive, okay? Giving is more in affinity of form than knowledge because it's giving. So faith is above knowledge. Faith is more giving than knowledge is. That's what it means. Emunah me'al hadat, faith above knowledge, means faith is more giving, more in affinity of form than knowledge is. And this is emunah, this is faith. B'vchinat Moshe raya me'emunah. Moses, the shepherd of faith. Masha ein kein eile nikra b'chinat yidiyah. And it's not the case. The word eile refers to knowledge, receiving. And on this they said, Eile Elohecha Yisrael. This is what the children of Israel said when they had the golden calf. They said, this is your God, O Israel. Huh? So what did they do with the golden calf? They wanted to receive the light of God in knowledge, in front of them, in actuality. They didn't want to do faith. They didn't want to go in faith. They wanted to receive an experience, okay? Like they wanted to receive the great light of God, but they were pulling it towards themselves. It's the opposite of what we said. It's the opposite of the heifer, okay? The way of the red heifer symbolizes faith. So when we take upon ourselves the issue of doing the Torah in faith as a statute, as a decree, because this is the way Moses told us, this is a tikkun, this is a rectification for the action of the golden calf. And this is the inner meaning of the parable that Rashi brings, that the mother will come and clean up the mess that the child did. And this is the meaning. This is what it means, that the heifer has to be a cow on which no yoke has ever been placed. My father, my teacher of blessed memory, that's Rabbi Yehuda Lev Ashrag, the Baal Sulam, said, we need to take on faith with joy. With joy. And not from the aspect of a yoke. Because not from the place that we're just doing it in faith until we can sort of come to a place when we can actually receive the light. Just waiting for the moment when we can let go of this yoke. Okay? No, we have to take on, the faith needs to be in joy. A lot of people have this idea. It's not, why he's saying this is a very important point. A lot of people have the idea that the aspect of faith is used only during the time of the tikkun of the will to receive. But when we finally reach the tikkun of the will to receive for the sake of giving, then we can chuck faith and we can use the will to receive, because it's only for the sake of giving anyhow, so we're able to receive the light of God. But he says, no, that's not the case. We need to be in joy now using faith and not be waiting for the moment when we can let go of the yoke of faith, okay? But to actually practice our faith in God and giving to God in faith, all right, through joy right now, okay? On the contrary, if we don't work in faith, that's actually one of the curses. That the curses, the negative stuff happens to us because we didn't serve God with gladness, all right? So our service for God, our faith also needs to be in gladness. And the truth is that even when we get to the Gemara Tikkun, the way of Yaakov, the way of Yisrael, is actually to say to God, wow, it's great we've reached the Gemara Tikkun. Thank you, God, Hashem, fantastic. And we want to go on in faith. That's the way of Israel. Okay? What follows from all this is that the main aspect is faith, is in order that a person is able to serve God from the aspect of choice. אפילו במקום שאינו מרגיש לטוב הנום שבתורה המצוות, מכל מקום הוא מקיים את זה מטעם שהוא מאמין שכך הוא רצון השם. So even when he's in the conscious space, that he can't feel the goodness and pleasantness in the Torah mitzvot, nevertheless he fulfills it because he believes that this is the will of God. לעבוד אותו בבחינת אמונה, to serve him with faith. באופן אחר הוא לא רוצה לקבל, and he doesn't want to work in any other way. והוא קשה בדעתו כברזל, and he sticks to his view like iron. כמו שאומר רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, Kol Talmid Chacham she'eno kasher kebarzel eino Talmid Chacham. Whoever is a student of God, Talmid Chacham is the student of the Chacham, who's God, the student of the sage, who is not as hard as iron. He's not a real student of God. Mashma mikan, it follows from here. Shafilu yeh baki b'shas u'poskim, that even if he really knows all the Talmud off by heart and all the Torah and everything, but he's not as clear that his service for God is because God says so. He's not a Talmid Chacham. היינו, שצריך להיות קשה כברזל מתקבל את התענוג, בין בבחינת מוח ובין בבחינת ליבה, עד שיהיה בטוח בעצמו שכל כוונתו מטעם רצון השם. He needs to be totally clear, okay? Like totally clear. He says, like iron, okay? That he doesn't want to receive the knowledge, the joy, whatever, okay? Whether in his mind or whether in his heart, until he's absolutely clear that he's only working for the sake of God. And he's called a Talmid Chacham, Mishum Shakodesh Baruch Hu Nikra Chacham, because Talmid of God, okay? Because the Holy Blessed One is called a Chacham, a wise man, a wise sage. So he's a student of God. VaKodesh Baruch Hu Rak Mashpia, and the God is only giving. Therefore, if a person is going in the attribute of God, that he's also giving, Talmid Chacham. This is called that he is a Talmid of the Chacham. Okay? Saying something very beautiful. He said, it doesn't matter if we don't know all the Gemara and all the everything. He says, but we're trying to do our best to follow the ways of God, to be a giver, then we're called a Talmid Chacham, because we're studying the ways of God and trying to be like God, that God is giving, and we're trying to be givers too. That's called a Talmid Chacham. That was a student of the Chacham, of God. We're learning the attribute of the Chacham, the attribute of God. And then only then we're able to receive all the good and the pleasantness which God thought to give to us. Okay? Beautiful. Okay? Oh, right, that's it. We've run out of time. Well, we came to the right moment at the right time at the right moment. All right, everybody? Okay, well, I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did. I thought it was beautiful. Okay, Chukat is one of my favorites.
Thank you so much, Conchita. Thank you.
Oh, you're
Thank you
welcome,
very much.
everybody. Yeah, lovely, lovely, lovely.
Bye-bye.
Have a lovely
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat. Yeah, Shabbat Shalom. See you next week. Bezrat Hashem.
Shabbat shalom. Bye-bye.